welcome to the special rock and roll edition. Yours truly, Adrian Hannah Dragon, Rainbow Dragon, androgynous, pansexual Aspie living with that neurodivergent Asperger's, aka HFA. It is 12:13. Just went for a few, not half an hour, maybe not, but 20 minutes shoveling some snow earlier, and it's been that snowstorm. 10th of December 2025 here in Canada, Montreal, North American Collective. The winter has come early. Winter came early, so that's that rock and roll, We gotta go shovel some snow, and I don't mind winter. I'm four seasons, here in Montreal. So I gotta commence with gratitude, grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. For the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians, the welders. Gotta salute the welders, the truckers, the construction workers, those public workers who pick up the garbage across the 63, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. Let our empire rise and let it be. Some rock and roll for the daycare workers who are changing some diapers right now across the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories. Always for the North American Collective. Always for the empire. Always God bless. And God is kiss. Our coming of our empire of the 63, the Republican Democratic Empire of the People. Right here for the North American Collective. My hope here when I see youth, of course, happy and joyous and safe. That always gives me some hope. And one of the mottos of the Dragon Empire, the Dragon Kingdom, aka the American Canadian Imperial Republic, is the children are innocent. The children are innocent. And we're going to discuss geopolitics. Going to put some coffee. Already got the powdered coffee in. So what coffee I'm using? Got to give a shout out again to my anonymous friend for giving me this great mug. It is very thick and big, but it is very light. Super light, and it has that red cardinal, auctioning it for $1 million. Gonna get the $1 million to get my anonymous friend half for the $1 million. See that red cardinal? Got that red. R-E-D, what I said. Got that red cardinal, R-E-D, what I said. Don't be so upset. Just some rock and roll. You don't gamble. Play some bets. Oh yeah, not necessarily that my voice is that great for rock and rolling, to get on that microphone. But when it comes to creating the lyrical content, I'm the best. I'm the Prince of Rock. I'm the Prince of Rock. Nobody knows. Financially stressed, but still got to go get my phone. I'm still shopping. Yesterday I went to assess my budget again. I said I'm going to be able to put maximum $50 down, after I pay my phone bill. And I'm not going to pay it for the next month because I got to get a new one because it's not working. So it's been 41 days, since I didn't have a phone. 41 days today, October 30th. I damaged it. You can see one of my long marches videos. I damaged it during the long march. It was raining, and I guess I'm not gonna film anymore during raining. When it's raining, I'm not gonna film and do my long marches. You could check my videos contents for hours and hours back. Years back, you can see me marching for hours, and I march every day. Yesterday I marched, as a matter of fact. Just gonna give me a second before I forget, because last night I didn't mark it, and for years and years and years I got an average. I got 2 marching seasons. One runs from about March 19th till about October 22nd, and that's when I have to average 25 hours weekly, minimum marching workouts. And of course, between October 22nd and about March 19th, I got to average 20. But sometimes I average way more. But those are the minimums. So I always got to reach that minimum from Monday to Friday, and that has been a constant for many, many, many years. Like fitness discipline, but it's more because of this Asperger's, and my special interest is fitness and sports and working out. I love to stay active, which I encourage all to do. Stay active in regular physical activity, and of course, it is something that I love to do. So I'm just gonna mark that my hours for yesterday. Yesterday I did 3 hours and 50 minutes because I had to come back to do some math at 8 o'clock. So I didn't do more than 4, but I gotta do that. That means that today I gotta do more than 4 hours and 10 to balance out, because I have to average 4 hours minimum per day to get to 20, right? So if you do the math, that's what I gotta do. So I'm just gonna mark it down before I forget today, because I have to average a bit more today. I'm gonna try to average 5 hours minimum today because I'm less sick. So let's get that coffee and rock and rolling, and we're gonna go strictly geopolitics today. Is gonna be a geopolitical discussions and introduction to my North American Collective. It's more a revision of the North American Collective civilizational complex, or the complex of the North American civilization in the context of the geopolitical realities of today. So it's going to be an hour class, or 40 minutes class with yours truly. Dragon is going to be a freestyle mode. We're going to go east, west, north, south, roundabout the 63 and around the world. And just going to put some coffee. Yep. I'm grateful, thankful that I got this coffee, you know, although I got to say my gratitude again. My rent's paid. Paid my rent. It is December 10th. For the month of December, paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, paid half of the Netflix, so I got Netflix for until the end of the year. And the only thing now, I got to try to get a new phone, and I'm going to try to get a deal. Or my anonymous friend, thank you. If I make $1 million, I'm going to give half. Wanted to sponsor me to get one, but they couldn't deliver it here for some reason. So if I don't get one within the next 3 days, I'm going to ask her to order it for me so I can get it maybe before the New Year's, or just maybe get it before the holidays, the 24th, before Xmas, you know. So take a sip of this coffee. And for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, always for those nurses who just finished a 12-hour shift, you know, they're going on there finishing their 12-hour shift. Got to raise some of that for them. And today in Montreal, it's snowy day. It's gonna snow until tomorrow, so we got an extra concern on the streets, you know, because it's winter came early this year. So I really love this mug with a red cardinal, and it's got some red in the back, red, green, and white, so that's perfecto. And auctioning it, already having drank from it a little bit. Oh, the coffee is a bit strong. I'm gonna add some more water. Cheers. For world peace, for the North American Collective, for my brothers and sisters, pledge your allegiance, legions, allies, and armies, thou art family. And you know how we rock and roll from now on, December 10th until the future. Friends with benefits only. You gotta be 18 plus for that good, loving rainbow dragon. If you're black, you're white, you're a man, you're a woman, you know. I'm always open for business and work. And friends with benefits. And my dream, the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, which manifests for the North American Collective. For the North American Collective, the civilizational complex of North America, that is, of course, something which we got to put it in, and, of course, manifesting all our domains and the plurality of our domains, which are concordant to the North American civilizational complex. We have to implement my Trinity of theories with a firm belief. I believe that my Trinity of theories have to be implemented. The CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Detrol Fusion Theory, and the DFT, the Democratic Fusion Theory, vis-a-vis the creation of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army, the DJA, aka the Imperial Integrated Dance League, to dance for joy, pleasure, and purpose, and for the environment, and of course the Dragon Army, the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, the SSD Legion, the Security Service and Defense Legion, to be integrated across all the security apparatus of the world, of course, of the complex of the world that exists now, from east, west, north, south, for our world, for the North American civilizational complex world, of course, for the more extending it, for the vis-a-vis dream of world peace, of course, but in conjunction to the North American civilizational complex. My Trinity of theories are fundamentally for the North American civilizational complex. So this is going to be part of a series, I guess a 4-part lecture series before the year ends. So it's going to be ending the year 2025 with this part 1, December 10th, Relations and Geopolitics. So we can, I guess, titled Coffee with Dragon, and General Geopolitics and the North American Collective and Civilizational Complex, or the North American Civilizational Complex. So leave the baggage at the door if you're not interested at this point in time. I'm probably going to sing a little bit of rock and roll here and there, so you can always glance at a little bit of that rock and roll cadence for the Dragon Army and for the workers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors. And before I proceed, I want to make a call of the heart, because it's 2 weeks before Christmas, you know. I mean, what I really love is the lights, the decorations of the lights, the blue, the yellow, the purple, the green, the orange. I just love those flashing lights that are really colorful. I just love to see them everywhere. And you know, in my neighborhood here in Montreal, it's a big island metropolis. It's 7th or 8th most populated city, of course. In Montreal is the 7th or 8th most populated city in North America, even when we include New York and Mexico as well, and when we include the country of Mexico as well. So it's the second most populated in Canada. It's been number 1 for many years, but here in Integree, Notre Dame de Grace, of course, has a population of more is the neighborhoods within Montreal, because Montreal is an island. So basically, for me, Montreal is the whole island. That's it. That's all kind of rock and roll, and it's just divided into different neighborhoods, such as, of course, New York and other big cities are divided into Brooklyn, Queens, and things of that nature, Manhattan Island, and such we have in Montreal, of course, in a parallel manner of the social, political, cultural, semi-cultural distribution, if you will, of the metropolis, Montreal Island, which is an island surrounded by a big river, so, and mountain complex where I went yesterday, when I go almost every day, but sometimes I go to the river by the city, but I go every week, a few times a week to my second home, maybe a few times a week to my second home. I do go that Mount Royal, the peak mountain right between the east and the west. None is it's south. It's slightly south of the center, but it's right between the east and the west of the island. Quite mystically, mystical proposition. If you're on the Three Peak Mountain, we have the mountain where I often go. You can check Mount Royal. Hundreds of my videos are often me going there and roundabout there in the forest in spring, and for years and years and years. And just to mention, of course, my condition is Asperger's, also known as HFA, high functioning autism. So it has taken me many years to accept it. Since about 2015, 2016, I've been semi-officially diagnosed by several individuals and citizens with Asperger's, the neurological mental divergent condition. Of course, that this Asperger's, of course, has proposition, and of course, what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not. We have to first say that it's not a disease. It's not a disease. It's not a disease. It's a neurological mental divergent condition, which makes Aspies like myself predisposed to certain peculiar, weird, and odd behaviors and rituals and rites in our daily habits and routines. Concordiate, our daily habits and routines, they're pretty much have a ritual-like routines, where we are usually engaged with super focus, super intensity, super concentration in those special interests. And I have 3 special interests for the past years and years, and as long as I can remember and know, I guess, because I've problems remembering my life prior to winter 2014, January, February 2014. So I have a very good memory of the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. Then there's like flashes and blackouts, like flashes and blackouts of my memory. Officially, I think the official medical term is RAR, or retrograde amnesia. So sometimes memory comes back. It's just having difficulties remembering my life prior to January, February 2014. January, February. So winter 2014, basically, January 2014. But that's a long time ago. It's going to be, this is December, January, February, so it's going to be 12 years next year. So that's more than 11 years and 10 months ago. Wow. So I guess it doesn't really matter. What matters mostly is my work post 2017, summer 2017, when I crossed Canada coast to coast, because before that I was depressed and suicidal. I moved here with nothing really. I had nothing when I moved here. I have a high school diploma. I graduated high school here in Canada, and I got Canada tatted up. And I believe my Asperger's kind of contributes to me having, this special interest. Because Aspies, we have special interests where we can excel, and not all Aspies are good at computer science, by the way. Yes, the proportional representation is higher than for the neurotypical population. It is 1 out of 5, so 20% vis-a-vis the 1 to 4% within the neurotypical population. So in that regards, statistically, there's an over-representation, yes. But not, of course, in all the manners which are concordiate to the representative aspects of the beings. The manifestation of Asperger's manifests as in different individuals, for example, have different special interests. It could be anything, really. It could be history, it could be mathematics, science, and computers. It could be hydroelectricity, it could be television, it could be, of course, arts, it could be geography, it could be a lot of different things. It could be all the things under the universe. It could be botany as well. It could be languages, Latin. Somebody could be obsessed, and Aspie could have an obsession. If you're an Aspie and you are obsessed with Latin, you would know Latin really well, But it's also called an obsessive interest, but I don't use the terminology obsessive. I use a special interest best, because an obsession is more from how you would engage a neurotypical. When I say you, the neurotypical population, which you constitute 99% of the population, with which we have to build bridges, sometimes small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. So within that context and complex of building these bridges, we lack certain social skills, right? We Aspies, and I'm getting better and better. Thank you, my anonymous friend, for the book Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. And this book, as a gift. But this book, so I like the book which was loaned from a library 4 times for me last spring and summer. It's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. This one I have to finish it because I almost finished 45 pages. So 45 pages because it has 191 pages, right? 191 pages. So almost 45 pages basically is a quarter, right? 25% of it I read, the first 25%. So I have to finish it, but say I got to almost to the end of the page 45. So I could say 45 basically. So I can basically turn it and start writing at the 46. Start rereading at the 46, right? Because there's where I finished. So after. So this book is called Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting. All their worlds are staged. Teaching Asperger's students social skills through acting. All their world is a stage. So I gotta say it is partially helpful, but the one that I like the most is Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. That one is has opened my eyes and has helped me a lot. And I've been semi-officially diagnosed for many years, since around 2015, 2016, So Aspies, we have these peculiar traits, characteristics sometimes, the way we speak sometimes, our communication styles, and sometimes we breach personal space. We tend to get too close to people. We might inspect objects like this in the store, to look at details. And I remember circa 2015, 2016, my friend in the store was saying, people are looking at you and as they're seeing you as a weirdo. You know that? You're aware of that? And I said, what for? How? I mean, as a weirdo, how so? I said, but you know what I'm doing? I asked my friend, you know what I'm doing? I said, I know what you're doing. You're looking at the details where it's produced. You're calculating the ratios of the grams, and you're calculating the ratios of the cost and the retail price in your mind, the wholesale price and the all those mathematics are going on in your mind, right? I said, exactly. Yeah. I said, I know, but people, when they see you doing that, they think you're off the rails, or they think you have certain a mental illness or such, And Asperger's is not a mental illness. That's where we have to draw the line. It can be very difficult. It takes lots of patience and work with Aspies. But the special interest of Aspies, you're going to be amazed. Because in those special interests, an Aspie would be an encyclopedia and would be able to even contribute to that field in a disproportionate manner, in a great manner. Myself, as an androgynous Aspie artist who was also a mystic and believer in reincarnations, many past lives from ancient Egypt, was born as a man, as a woman, a woman, man. I was born in the United States 3 times, served in the same United States Army post 70-76 twice, and once I was born as a woman. You just gotta read George Patton Through a Glass Darkly. It is something which we have to always concord and always advise people and let people know what is and what is not Asperger's, which is not a disease. So, see? For example, inspecting this one is the coffee. It's the natural instant powdered coffee. So this is the natural instant powdered coffee that I'm drinking here. So I bought this for 99 cents. So I would inspect objects. I still do it today, even if people stare. I don't mind, because it's so that person that does that might be somebody with Asperger's, right? So. And just look at those numbers. See those small, tiny numbers? So we would be concerned about those small, tiny numbers there, or tiny, small numbers. For example, what they might symbolize, they have a significance, whether there are internal industrial classifications, whether they're internal for that specific corporation, transnational corporation or company, or in all these dimensions, that exist within the realms of international trade and business and trade. Those are those special details. So little weird details like that somebody said, man, I've been buying that product for 25 years. I never noticed that there's those little numbers on it. That could happen, I said, yeah, you never noticed because I guess you never checked and you never looked like I look. So we see the world differently, but it's not a disease, and it can be hard to maintain friendships, right? And we can be very intense, very concentrated. That's why from now on to establish, I'm always open for work, but I don't will to waste nobody's time, because life, and I survived COVID in 2020 here. So if you were black, you're white, you're rainbow. If you're over 18, so to calculate mathematically, you have to be born before December 10, 2007 to be 18, because it's 2025, December 10th. So you have to be born before the 10th to be 18. So I'm gonna card you. I'm good. I'm above average in math. I'm not a mathematical genius nor an expert, but I love math. But love in an Aspie type of love, Aspie type of love. So I was able to calculate. You show me the ID, friends with benefits. No. Or yes. Okay, you're born after December 9th, 2007, after December 9th, or on December, or before, correction, before. You have to be born before December 9th, 2007. And as tomorrow is going to be a day, every day that passes, it's every day that goes with one day, right? So tomorrow is going to be before the 10th, on the 11th. On the 12th is going to be before the 11th. On the 13th is going to be before the 12th. So it's sequential mathematics with that as the passing of time, right? So friends with benefits, always open. Or my dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which is fundamentally the Imperial Republic, of the 63. Always sing that cadence for the 10, the 50, and the 3. And as a matter of fact, we're going to rock and roll this. So just going to finalize on Asperger's. Just before I get into geopolitics, I guess it's important to mention, because it is my special interest, right? Prior to my trinity of special interest for the past years and years and years, on the daily basis, sometimes for hours and hours and hours, I'm engaged with super intensity, super focus, super concentration in those specific subjects. And Aspies, we can be super intense, super focused, super concentrated, super engaged when we are involved in those specifics. But we have certain trouble with social understanding, and with Aspies, you have to be sometimes more direct and straightforward. That's why I don't want to waste your time. If you're black, you're white, you're rainbow, you're 18 plus, friends with benefits only for me. Friends with benefits only, or we can work as an artist. I always work, create rock and roll songs as an athlete, independent AA, philosopher, and independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and geopolitics, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, as I am also the priestess of the goddess Hana. I was going to be philosopher dragon now, as we move for geopolitics today. Geopolitics, but I'm also an artist, and androgynous pansexual Aspie, and geopolitics, sports and fitness, and rock and roll, sports and fitness, and geopolitics. Those are my trinity of special interest, also known as obsessive interest. And due to, I guess, the curse becoming a blessing, I guess, every day, although I'm pretty joyous, my stress is financial. My only stress now is financial, economic, and I wish I could give my anonymous friends some money, because I kind of take responsibility, because I kind of damaged I gotta take at least 2/3, 66.6% responsibility. 2/3 is the equivalent of 66.6%. 2/3, the percentages and the ratios. I love that. That always mathematics, percentages and ratios and calculations. That's constant with me, even when I march and I look at the cards. And now I gotta get a good news, because I noticed it was $1.44 the gas. So it went from 156.9 to 144.9. So that means 156.9 minus 144.9, because that's how you figure the differential. It's 12 cents. So it's 12 cents less than 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago is 156. So it's 12 cents less, which is, in percentage, is about, from 156, 12 cents is about, almost. It's about 8%, right? More or less 8%. It's around 8%, right? 8 point something percent. Be 8.53 exactly. So that just pops in my brain, that's just a constant thing. But I'm not advanced in mathematics, but this thing, the percentages, calculation of the percentages, these things is always happening in my brain, in my mind. It's a constant thing. But the problem is with Asperger's is that we lack the more social understandings of the social dynamics, So that can be problematic in certain cases for us Aspies. That can be a problem. That's why I have to be more direct and straightforward. Yes, and the problem is, I'm going to mention it before I get into geopolitics, it's a very high unemployment rate. So I had many jobs, but I lost them, I lost the jobs because of neurodivergence, Asperger's, because we just, the gossip and things like that, we just block, we don't fully understand them too much, I'm getting better and better and better every day with self-education, and my anonymous friend, thank you for the books. And this one is partly helpful. teaching Asperger's students social skills through acting. All their worlds a stage. All your world, I guess. The 99% of the neurotypicals. Your world is a stage. Uh, right. So I just have to live with this, and there's no medication for it. You live with it. It's lifelong. There's just understanding and impatience. So it's not something that has to be viewed in a negative light, because appreciating Asperger's syndrome, yes, in certain things it can be difficult, because Aspies sometimes we can be direct and straightforward in certain things, and that might seem abrasive or in certain ways, but it's not that we mean to offend, or it's not that we mean to offend, really. We don't mean to offend or trigger or be negative. It's just how our brain works, and we offer compassion and empathy by action, less than just blah blah blah, like more verbal consolation. Although I guess that's part of the process and the socializing aspect of it, but we also like to do. I mean, myself as an individual Aspie, I don't speak for the whole Aspie community, but how my Asperger's manifests, my Aspiness, you know. So to do, and that is just, of course, how it is in the manifestation of the daily basis of living in society. So fellow Aspies of the world unite, but the unemployment is sometimes even higher than 80%, so this is unacceptable. Imagine 4 out of 5 Aspies people, and consider that we are less than, the Aspie population of North America is about 0.44%. So that's why not a lot of people know even what it is. It's less than 1%. It's not like, usually everybody knows, most people know when you say cancer, what cancer is. When I mention Asperger's, it's only about, till now if I calculate mathematically, it's about a ratio of about maybe 3 out of 10 know what I mentioned. And most people, basically the majority, don't know what it is. Said, I never heard of it. Even last Monday I had an interaction and said, I don't know what it is. I have never heard of it. If I would have mentioned cancer, then it would have been different. Right? So it's not that common, and it certainly impedes, for example, because at 80% unemployment, it certainly can manifest negatively in the economic, financial sense, And we have these special interests, right? So for sometimes daily basis, we have these routines also, routines, and I don't mind change that much, especially with the economic, financial, commercial. I guess I changed myself. I changed so much. I'm definitely not the same person before COVID. I died during COVID right here, being reborn in an artistic, philosophical, geopolitical manner. I died before I was depressed and suicidal, between summer, autumn 2014 till about 2017 summer, when I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event I always mention it, most of the times I mention it. And my anonymous friend, we crossed Canada coast to coast. In August 2017, we went to Vancouver, British Columbia. We took the bus, 3.5 days by bus, several buses. We changed along the way. So we went from Montreal to Vancouver. And then from Montreal, we went, of course, to Halifax in September 2017. 25 hours and 44 minutes. I still have the tickets. I'm going to auction the tickets for $1 million each, as I'm auctioning this red and this green. And everything, 93% of what I have, I'm auctioning it to get 50% to my friend. And that's got to be that rock and roll, and got those red gloves, still the Dragon versus Trump since 2018, Gotta show those gloves again a bit. So I've been challenging Donald Trump, Granddaddy Trump. Call him Granddaddy, but he knows that I would have voted for. He knows that I would have voted for. He knows that I would have voted for. He knows that I would have voted for Kamala or Biden. So Granddaddy Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. This is how we're gonna begin geopolitics. So let's go into geopolitics. My special interest. I spend hours and hours and hours daily, working out, training, exercising, mostly marching and meditating about mathematics and geopolitics and rock and roll, and geopolitics and rock and roll. And I march 24/7. But Of course, when I come back and in the morning and the afternoon when I'm at home, I always watch news, analyze the news from all over the world. So in 2018, this is how we're going to be commencing the North American, so launching today officially with the introduction on what I am, who I am, and a philosopher, artist, athlete, androgynous, pansexual, Aspiesque, artist, athlete, philosopher, independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist, developing strategies for the North American collective, and of course, a mystic. So now that the national security strategy, I have to read the whole paper. The national security strategy, I have to read the whole paper. It's been in the news in the past 48 hours. You know that in the past years, if you revise my videos and read the transcripts properly, read my transcripts word for word, verbatim for verbatim, verbatim per verbatim properly, you're gonna see that my strategy is called the binational, or bipolar, not to be confused with a psychiatric, psychological condition of bipolar, but my geopolitical strategy is called the bipolar geopolitical strategy for the total BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion of the North American collective of the world, of the North American collective, by fusing Canada into the imperial and the United States into the imperial republican complex, by the implementation of my Trinity of theories, the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt fusion theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory. That Trinity of theory has to be observed. So in 2018, Donald Trump's first administration made I would say, the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Now, mistake from a geopolitical position. The paradox, and this is what I will mention, Granddaddy Trump. Now, we as Canadians and as North Americans, right? If you believe in reincarnations, that I, of course, lived in the United States 3 times, post 7076, once as a woman. It's always God bless and God is kiss. Gotta get that GODDSS as well. God bless and God is kiss. And I served in the same United States Armed Forces, 2 different wars, 156 years apart. If you don't believe in reincarnations, that's fine, but you just gotta read George Patton through a glass dark. You're gonna be able to channel General Dragon Zero, aka Clit 7 times the power of Patton to the power of 7, I guess. But nonetheless, to be relegated to the infusion of the dynamics is that we have to, of course, observe and of course implement these realities of where we are today, December 2025, from the world perspective, but mostly from a North American centric perspective, because as much as I can pronounce myself as I'm educated in international relations, in geopolitics is global, is worldwide, is international, is universal. And of course, 3 things never sleep. Money never sleeps. Money never sleeps, right? It's always buying and selling across the world in different currencies of the world, not just the US dollar, Canadian dollar, but the euro, the shekel, the yuan, the yen, the rupee. There's always Australian dollar, it's always buying and selling. Money never sleeps. The sun never sleeps. There's always a sunset and a sunrise every minute. Somewhere in the world, there's a sunset and a sunrise every minute. There's a sunset and a sunrise every minute. Every minute, there's a sunset and a sunrise somewhere in the world. The other is geopolitics. Geopolitics also never sleeps. There's always events, geopolitical events, of course, with the Concordiat, of course, to be. Geopolitical events always transpire across the world. Smaller, minor, bigger, or extra large, or extra important events. So these 3 never sleep, right? So as we have somebody's whispering in my ear, I guess an archangel, maybe one of the archangel whispers, and there's a 4th dimension that never sleeps. I'll let you guess which one that is. Yes, it has to do with our security forces, our security apparatus. So we got the red gloves. I got these gifts. I'm auctioning them for $1 million. Thank you, my anonymous friend, who gave me this gift in 2018, and I used them a lot. They're a bit damaged, but it's Dragon versus Trump. I have been them and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border. So thank you, my anonymous friend. I got these holidays 2018. I got these around mid-November to about between like end of October till about holiday time 2018. So it's 7 years ago. I put them to good use, and I'm auctioning them for $1 million. Gonna give her half, 50%, and You know, I have been and will challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border. So anybody wants to get that deal done, and you can get those gloves. So wow, 7 years since I got them. You can see hundreds of my videos with it. You know, you can see hundreds of my videos. That is what it is. We got the hundreds of videos there. The relationship what we have now, of course, to be the dynamics, and that's what it is now. Of course, the dynamic of the relationship for everything that we have and everything that we endeavor to be, that it is something which we have to suffuse ourselves in the complementarity of the Canadian-United States relation. So now that I gotta mention that it's gonna be a sportsmanship boxing match. It's gonna be a sportsmanship boxing match, eh? Sportsmanship boxing match. Sportsmanship boxing match is gonna be sportsmanship, and that boxing match is gonna be a sportsman-like boxing match. I gotta give a shout out before I proceed. You know, there's a food pantry here where I get some food, and this was donated, and this is best before May 2026. So again, if you see some Aspie, what I would do is inspect somebody doing like this in the store and looking it closely to the eyes, inspecting it. Then that person is probably somebody with Asperger's, somebody like me who has this neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, HFA, high functioning autism. So that is, this is, thank you, tahini, crushed sesame seeds. You can get, oh, and it's product, interesting, it's product of Israel, interestingly enough. So. Well, and interesting enough, there's an article about Trump from, which I gotta read this, from this year, 2025, February, the week The Economist, February 22nd to 28th. So I'm gonna read this tonight when I get back, or over the weekend, and give it back to my friends. So, but the would-be king. So that is where we are with that. So that is the manifestation, of course, of now of geopolitics. So geopolitics. So the geopolitical effects, before I go into the geopolitics, I also got to give a shout out because I cooked some of these good potatoes and my food came out good. Product of Canada. Product of Canada. These potatoes are product of Canada. And of course, we have Aliments Quebec, product of Canada, where we have to wash them well. Product of Canada, we have to product of well. You know, so these are white potatoes, product of Canada, which I recommend. And this, I gotta also say that it was not bad at all. It was pretty good. First time that I had eaten this is made in Quebec. It's a Quebecer Canadian North American, made in Quebec. We got here made what I call as a philosopher, the great linguistic compromise of the French language. We made the great linguistic compromise of the French language, and I have to visit that place. It's about 400 kilometers from here, 400 or 500. Gonna double check. It's Mont Carmel, Carmel Mountain in Quebec. Carmel Mountain. It's a few hours drive. It's about 4 to 5 hour drive, so it's not that close from Montreal, but it's about 400 to 500 kilometers. Kilometers, not miles, from Montreal. See? This is a pizza. All dressed. This was also donated. This I had over the weekend Sunday, so thank you for improving my food security. Food security is important. And the geopolitics of food security and is something which we'll discuss in the coming lectures. And this is just an introduction of the 4-part lecture series to end the year 2025. But of course, meaning to say, Sophia, that it is in our geopolitical interest for us to have food security for all citizens and housing food securities for the wellness of the population, the individual and the collective. They go hand in hand together. And that's why my dream is a mass public-private partnership, for the North American collective, what I call the North American civilizational complex, which we are an emergent civilizational complex. So, now to finalize on the Dragon versus Trump. Dragon versus Trump is going to be a sportsman-like conduct, because Granddaddy Trump did the mistake. And now what I'm going to impose tariffs, that is, on Canada, right? But the paradox is that Granddaddy Trump has invited us Canadians, what's called in American political cultural history, admission to the Union, admission to the Union, admission to the Union. By providence, just like we have 13 political entities in Canada, 10 provinces and 3 territories. Let's go from the east to the west, or from the west to the east. Let's start with the east, from the Maritimes. We got Prince Edward Island, we got Labrador, Newfoundland, we got New Brunswick, and we got Nova Scotia, the 4 maritime provinces. Then we come here to Quebec, then we go Ontario, then we go Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia. Those are the 10 provinces, right? We go up north, we got Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, right? From west to east, the 3. So that's 13, just like the 13 original colonies and colonies of the United States. Now, United States has 50 states, so 50 plus 13 will equal 63 in the coming Imperial Republic fusion of my dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. So originally there were 13 states in 1776, right? After that, this union admitted other states. So this is called, in American political language, admission to the union. So other states, 50 minus 13 is 37. 37, right? So 37 states were admitted after 1776. Which one's the last? I'm going to let you name. I'm going to let you guess. Is it Alaska? Is it Hawaii? Which one is it? Right, so that's going to be a little question, open question if somebody visits here. So today's December 10th. So admission to the Union. So Donald Trump, Granddaddy Trump, paradoxically has, not in the right way. You should have, Granddaddy Trump, you have your advisors, you have your more right-wing nationalist. Me, I'm a pro-labor, love universal revolutionary centrist. Our party is the NACWP, the North American Collective Workers' Party. The Dragon, for the Dragon Army. We can make the Dragon Trump Carney Summit meeting on the top Mount Royal. Then, of course, for the 63, for SSD, Internal Security Service and Defense, and rebuilding the ghettos, rebuilding the infrastructure, the bridges, the highways, rebuilding the urban cities, the inner urban cities. We have to rebuild, mass rebuilding in North America. But it's a democratic Republican affair, meaning in the 21st century, integrated with my Trinity of theories, and it has to be via my Trinity of theories, because that's my universal revolutionary centrism is North American centric, because I am a North American. Fundamentally, I am a North American, with my Asperger's, with my neurodivergence, with my spiritual mystic belief in reincarnations, and with my little scars, plenty of scars on the body, and I guess some PTSD, but I guess I've been healed a lot and changed a lot and accepted my neurodivergence, because for years and years and years I did not want it fully integrated and admitted, but that's what we live with today. As the children are innocent, and for the 63 coast to coast, ocean to ocean, let our empire rise and let it be. So that is the song. But the other songs coming, new songs, I got my new songs made here every day, making channeling and singing new rock and roll songs on the daily. Donald Trump, Granddaddy Trump, made that mistake. But paradoxically, we were invited to join the Union, to join as one with the American people, which we have to consider it. We have to consider it as Canadians, We have to, and yes, we have to build for healthcare for Canadians, American Canadians, the coming Imperial Republic, for healthcare and to mass finance fitness and mass finance wellness activity, especially my protocol for mass public-private partnership. Everything, of course, is a mass public-private partnership. The mass Imperial public-private partnership to also finance tourism every 4 seasons, to accord all citizens who are 16 and plus 4 days. 4 times 4, that's 16. Every year for anybody to go across the 63. Anywhere in Canada, United States, as we're going to fuse as one, that's going to be accorded to all citizens regardless of every other thing, because that's going to be building a esprit de corps, and that's going to rejuvenate, and that's going to bring joy. We can do it. Public-private partnership, don't tell me we cannot finance Wall Street and with all security apparatuses, we're going to fuse our armed forces and create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, based on my new 911 Dragon 911 North American Security Service and Defense Protocols, and calling on my brother citizen Bill Gates, Microsoft and Flock and Palantir and all massive public-private partnership corporation for the binational security apparatus to be transformed and suffused, and of course to mass finance the Imperial Tourism Initiative for the youth to see. Because me, I came out of depression when I crossed Canada coast to coast. That was my moment when I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow brothers and sisters in the 50 states, in the 13 political entities, 10 provinces and 3 territories, when I crossed Canada coast to coast. So that was the suffusion and the market thereof. So that was, of course, all the relationships where we have, of course, to be in the manifestation of all our pluralities. So thus, we can concord that our trajectories for this fusion, right? And by fellow Canadians, I got Canada tatted up here. So supposedly I got this tatted up in 2003. Look at that. 2003. So 2003. 2003. Supposedly I got this in 2003. 2003. See? 22 years ago. It's going to be 24 years in next year. In 2003, when I graduated high school, summer 2003 supposedly. So wow, that's a long time, eh? Wow. Because most of my memory prior to January, February 2014 is, I'm not sure, but I have what I have written on my journals, and as being part of the LGBTQ community, I've been in the open since I can remember, since summer 2014. Before that, I guess I don't know when if it doesn't matter really, but made lots of friends, lost lots of friends. That's why Friends with Benefits only from now on, and we can be these great friends with benefits, Canada, United States, and in many ways we were such, we were such, and now we have some tensions, I guess. Sometimes we need some scratching of each other's backs, Hey, that was 20 minutes, you did only 15. But a sense of economic, social, financial justice as well, And we have to rebuild the ghettos, as well. So the paradox for all Canadians is that we were invited to the Union, to be admitted to the Union of the United States, right? That's the paradox of Donald Trump's paradoxical manner that we are to be admitted to the Union. So our territory and the American population, right, because be confused as one, that's also going to be strengthening each other, the Canadian, but now Canada in the past years, we are in crises. We are in crises. We have crises, in Canada, homelessness and and now I'm just thinking about, in 2024, there was an RCMP report. Well, the report came out in 2022, but it was public in March, and the new national. It was reported in March 20th, 2024, so it's going to be 2 years. And although the words were not used because it was heavily redacted, so there was a lot of redaction, a lot of things were not in it. But of course, it was interpreted as Canadians are ready to revolt and unrest and revolt because of the hopelessness of the economic affair and the deterioration of the social conditions. So I'm going to go back to 2019. If you check, I have proof of what I'm going to say. I have predicted an international conflagration of World War III back, of course, in 2019. In 2019, I have predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration. In 2019, October 17, I posted the first video. So I predicted, of course, that there will be an international conflagration in the coming 7 years, basically. So that was my premise, and of course I have proof for that. I have proof for what I just said. I had predicted, of course, that there was going to be an international conflagration in October 2019. So I'm marking 6 years already 6 years since that event, and soon to be in February 2026, 6 years since I survived COVID. So the North American civilizational complex is basically Canada, United States, but is extended to Mexico and including Haiti, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, the islands. Cuba is a paradox because they're socialist communists, but nonetheless, it also includes Cuba in a paradoxical manner. So our strategies, which we have to concord, is from the North American civilizational complex perspective, our common history and common destiny, because we are an emergent civilizational complex. For example, here in Quebec, we made what I call the Great Linguistic Compromise for the French language. Right? We made the Great Linguistic Compromise for and of the French language. So that, of course, has to be properly understood as well. So this being an introduction, I guess, to the North American collective civilizational complex and the general geopolitics. So this general geopolitics is concorded to what I have predicted back in 2019, that there's an international conflagration, and these were based, most of my premises were a bit academic, intellectual in nature, and of course based on certain events and patterns, of course, and of course the fact that many civilizations and regions and nation states did not fully resolve their conflicts dating from the 20th century. If you look at around the world, Russia, Ukraine is an unresolved conflict from the 20th century. Israel, Palestine, Arab world, the Middle East is also an unresolved conflict from the Cold War period, mostly Russia, Ukraine, the Cold War era, which lasted almost 45 years. Some say more, 45, 46. I don't mind saying more. I just don't object to saying less, because I point the Cold War period between March 1947 and end of December 1991. So that is, if you do the math, that is almost 45 years, right? From March 1947 till end of December 1991. So the Cold War lasted almost 45 years. And you look at other conflicts, for example, Taiwan is an unresolved conflict from the Cold War period, specifically from the 20th century. And now we have on the horizon a deterioration of relation between China and Japan, which is kind of worrisome. And the rearmament of Japan, I discussed it in my past videos. If you want to see, I'm going to introduce it briefly now. It's called the twin paradox, twin geopolitical paradox, the East and the West twin geopolitical paradox. Because in the Western world, in Germany, we have Germany paradoxically rearming, and Germany had an imperial aggressive militaristic past, such as Japan had an imperial aggressive militaristic past in the 20th century. And the taboo, these twins, what I call the twin taboos, geopolitical taboos, is that the rearming of Germany has occurred in the past three years since, well, it's going to be 4 years soon, since the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, right, and the coming afterwards, but recently, mostly in the past 3 years, and even more recently in the past 3 years after post-October 7th. And now the new Prime Minister of Japan has mass invested in the military of Japan, and they got rid of some of their constitutionally ingrained in their political culture that regarding to what they can rearm with and what they can invest in the military. So those double twin taboos of the East and the West of Germany is that they cannot invest heavily in military affairs, and Japan as well, have been kind of dropped. And those taboos have been broken. So that also has to be considered, but from a North American geopolitical perspective and the geopolitical realities of the world, and of course events in Africa and the Middle East, and of course the transnational criminal organizations, which are the RCMP warned us since about 2015, that there's a growing transnational criminal syndicates basing their operations in Canada. And the fact that Canada, since August 1st, 2025, I get goosebumps every time I discuss it, the Trump administration designates Canada as an unusual and extraordinary threat. And last year, October 25th or 24th or 25th in October of 2024, so about a year and a month ago, the RCMP dismantled the biggest ever fentanyl lab, super lab of fentanyl in Canada, right? And that fentanyl, they seized enough fentanyl to be able to kill the population of Canada twice over. So think about that for a second, twice over. So that's 80 million people, just that one super lab. And it was operated by a transnational criminal syndicate organized group. So in relation to this and other factors, United States has designated Canada as an unusual and extraordinary threat. So this we have to also take very, very seriously. And that's why my way for the new North American 911 protocols to fuse the RCMP and the FBI best, and to create complementary organizations for total security service and defense for the North American collective, and create the common currency, the UE, Universal Exchange Unit. The UE or the Imperial American dollar, and via the DRT as well, the debt refusion theory. The DRT, the debt refusion theory, to be implemented. The DRT, the debt refusion theory, of course, to be implemented. I discussed it in the past. I will discuss it in the coming lecture. But as a strategy for the North American Collective, as a strategy, what I call the bipolar, not to be confused with a psychiatric psychological condition again, but the bipolar geopolitical strategy for total BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion, counterpoise to the national strategy of Granddaddy Trump, because me, it's always binational. It's always binational. It's always binational, right? So as much as gonna be, in a way, my dream is the admission to the Union, but the realities with this admission to the Union is fusing Canada, United States into the Imperial American Canadian Republic, is also gonna give nascence to other geopolitical realities which I have predicted back in 2019, which are occurring now, and we have to be careful with our foreign. We're going to develop the foreign policy afterwards, of course, but we also have to relegate to the NATO complex, and within the NATO strategies, such as my total mobile defense theory, which I cannot discuss too much because it's binational and multinational for NORAD NATO. It's concocted since 2017 for NORAD NATO, so I cannot discuss it too much because it's binational, mostly binational security sensitive. So my TMDT, total mobile defense theory, the TMDT, total mobile defense theory, I cannot discuss over much because it's binational security sensitive. And of course, as you know, that before October 7th, 2023, because technically a country cannot join NATO when it's at war, because Article 5 was only invoked once in 9/11. 9/11 was the only time that Article 5 was invoked. But before October 7th, I was advocating in my protocol, which is a geopolitical protocol, Genesis 33 protocol for Israel to join NATO before October 7th. So let's get to the global dragon septennium.